It's just about winter, so it's time for chicken pot pie. We're going to start by chopping up 6 ribs of celery. I cut mine into big old pieces, but you could chop them a little smaller if you like. Put that in a mixing bowl for now and set it aside. You simply cannot cook and not use onion, at least not in my kitchen. So we'll do a quick dice up of a large yellow onion. To do that, place several vertical cuts from the top down, then we'll place a few cuts horizontally, then we'll rotate it and chop it from the top again to make nice diced pieces. They aren't all perfect, but this saves a ton of time and makes onion prep fly by. Put that in a mixing bowl and set it aside for now. Melt up 2 tablespoons of butter in a frying pan and throw in 1 package of Midamar's Halal chicken breast. Cook that over medium heat until the white starts to creep up the sides of the chicken. Give the chicken a look and see if it's got a nice golden brown crust forming. If it's good and golden, give it a flip. If not, let it sit for just a bit longer. Make sure not to disturb these while they cook. That'll help the crust form. Give it a flip and let that form a nice golden crust on the other side. In the meantime, we'll season the cooked side with salt and pepper. Remove that to a plate and let it cool a bit before cutting into bite-sized chunks. Now in a big old Dutch oven, we'll bring in 2 tablespoons of butter and about 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Get them all melty and mixed together, then we'll toss in the onions and celery. Cook that until the onions are nice and tender. This took me about 7 minutes or so. Now we'll add in 4 cloves of crushed garlic, half a teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon of pepper. Cook that up until the garlic is nice and fragrant. Add in a 1/4 cup of flour and mix it all up. We'll cook that until the flour smell dissipates. This will be our thickener so we get that nice texture we're going for. Pour in 1.5 cups of halal chicken stock. Give that a mix in and cook until the liquid thickens until it's almost like a gravy. Then it's ready for a 1/4 cup of heavy cream. You could also use half and half instead of heavy cream. Give that a little whisking until it's thickened up just a little bit. Toss in our chicken along with any juices, then we'll add in 2 packs of Sno Pac organic peas and carrots. You can get those veggies and all your halal meats at midamarhalal.com. The link is in the description below. Give that a mix in, and if you think it looks a little too thick, add in a little extra chicken broth in batches until it's closer to your preferred thickness. We want to add in a teaspoon of salt and pepper. Then we'll bring in 3 tablespoons of poultry seasoning of your choice. I'd recommend sprinkling it in little bits at a time. In the past, I poured it in quickly and ended up with seasoning lumps, so don't do that. Mix that up until the seasoning is fully mixed into the filling and give it a little taste to make sure it's to your liking. I needed a little more salt and pepper to get it to where I like it, then I let it cool off for a little bit. Now we gotta make the puff pastry topping. To start, we're gonna flour a cutting board, then lay some thawed puff pastry on there. Use a rolling pin to get that thinned out and layer it over a casserole dish to make sure it covers the top. Once it's the right size, we'll pour our filling into the dish and then top it with the crust. I had to snip off some of the corners, but I could have removed more. Next, place a few cuts into the crust so the steam has a place to vent. Next, we'll give the pastry a little egg wash by cracking an egg into a small dish, giving it a tiny whisk, and painting it over the top. Lastly, we'll bake that at 400 degrees for 45 minutes. Once it's out of the oven, let it rest for 5 to 10 minutes, then serve it warm and enjoy. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week with another tasty halal recipe.